Ladies and gentlemen, let's get these engines fired up. Let's tonight on the Josh Nolan and Oliver S Full Throttle Racing Show, hashtag one on YouTube. We have with us sprint car sensation, sprint car superstar, 360 sprint car driver Dan Henning from Columbia, Iowa. Welcome to the show, there, Mr. Dan.
Thank you for having me, Josh. I really appreciate it. Pleasure.
So let me kick things off with you, Dan. Then, how did you end up getting into racing?
Uh, First started off, my grandfather had took me to the races with him a little bit when I was a teenager, and before that, I kind of went sporadically off and on with my parents or my grandparents when I was really young. I think the first race I kind of remember. I don't know if I was even 10 yet. I might have been around 8. And anyways, as I got a little older, I got a little bit more interested in it. My dad was kind of interested in NASCAR and stuff like that when I was really young. And my grandfather that lives out in North Carolina, he was really close to the Petty Enterprises shop. And we actually visited there in 1988. So it's kind of something that I'd sort of in a way been around even when I was very young. I mean, so it was always kind of there. And my grandfather also, he ran auto parts and machine shop and sponsored some local drivers too that raced at the Southern Iowa Speedway in Oskaloosa. So later on, as I became a teenager, I got to go with him. And honestly, I think there was like a span of 2 years I really didn't miss a race. So it was a weekly thing that I always look forward to, and it kind of it's for some people, I guess, the bug gets you a little bit harder than other people. It's a little polarizing.
So, what are some goals you had set for yourself when you first started racing?
Well, honestly, when I first started racing, it's kind of my story is a little bit different because I was going to the races with my grandfather. My dad, he worked a lot, and so did my mom. So it was a time for me to spend with my grandfather, and then my dad and I would ride motorcycles and work on them together. And ironically, they had this winter racing series at the Pioneer Livestock Pavilion in Des Moines, Iowa, at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. And my dad had bought this $400 flat track motorcycle, and he surprised to show it to me. And he actually started racing maybe a few weeks before I did, and I raced. Of all things, an adult mini bike. It's a Hodaka. People wouldn't know what it is, but I raced it in the adult mini bike class when I was 14 years old, and that was November of 1998, and that's where I got my first start in racing. To watch it, it didn't look extremely spectacular, but as you got to participate, it was a lot more fun actually racing than what it probably looked like from the stands. But it was a blast. It was a lot of fun, and you learned a lot, even if it was something that it just got your feet wet. So it was a lot of fun, and not a lot of money was spent, but a lot of great memories were had. It was a wonderful time.
So, have you achieved some of your goals, the goals that you had set for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so crazy. I don't know that I really had any goals coming in. Just things just kind of transpired. Uh, when we first started uh, racing the motorcycles, my dad and I would help work on stuff. And, at first, any sort of winning didn't come easy. And the second year we raced, all of a sudden, things started to come together a little bit more. And yeah, I guess I don't know if it was a goal or anything, but the expectation is you wanted to do good every night. It wasn't just we were there, we raced, we got something to eat after the races, we had fun. Uh, it got a little more serious to where I guess the goal at the end of the night was you wanted to win. So it was a lot of fun, and when you did occasionally win, man, it was a blast.
Okay, so Oliver, do you have any questions for him?
I do. So what would you say through your racing career? What would you say are some of your like greatest memories that you have through your career?
Some of the greatest memories, I know this sounds weird. It's been over 20 years of racing, and that's crazy in itself. I'm not 40 years old yet, but time flies, and uh I have been racing the sprint car now, and I never seen that uh be an obtainable goal for me when I was 18 years old. I didn't know that that was a reality for me. So now that things have transpired, my racing program is smaller compared to probably a lot of other people that I race with, but still I look back and I want to, this is completely honest. I look back to the days when and I didn't get further on yet, but here a couple years later, my grandfather helped me with a go-kart when I turned 18, and we raced go-karts. And I really look back to the days when we were really racing out of the bed of an 8-foot pickup truck. And maybe about 6 months later, we'd upgraded to a topper. And so it was a lot of fun, and it got competitive. Uh, and honestly, at the time, it seemed expensive because I didn't have very much money. When I turned 18, I was starting to take on the financial responsibilities of it very heavily. And I would go from, and this being completely honest, I went from working at McDonald's at 6 a.m. To 2:30. I'd leave work and then basically get changed, and the go-kart was ready, and we go race go-karts at the Newton Kart Club in Newton, Iowa. And then let's say it was 1 a.m., then we would come back home. Sometimes it was just me in the truck, and I would come back home. My grandfather, he probably didn't want to stay up till 2 a.m. So after midnight, he was usually out. So anyways, I would head back home and then get back up and help open at 7 a.m. on Sunday. So that's some of the memories. Just it was more fun. It's still fun, but there's a lot more other things involved. It's fun to think about where it started. It's still fun, and I'd love to keep it fun. But there's a lot more work and preparation now. It's still fun, but it's very exciting to think about how simple it was when it started, and there was a lot to learn, and I'm still learning.
So like kind of what you said when like when you first turned 18, like when you kind of going through all the things, what would you say is like the biggest thing that kept you into racing all through all those obstacles through your way? What's the thing that really kept you from never leaving your passion?
Probably the thing that kept me going is I was always thinking about next year or a couple years down the road, or what's going to happen in 5, because things continued to build. I went from racing a flat track motorcycle at the age of 14 to racing what now people call flat carts, just a racing go-kart at the age of 18. And then I did that from 2002 to 2004 is when I raced the flat carts. And then I ended up getting an outlaw dirt cart in 2005. And I raced that for 1 year because I graduated college and I had a full-time job. And the place I raced at, they switched to Friday nights, and I was working as a CNC machinist, and I was working nights. I couldn't race weekly there. So I started racing micro sprints in 2006. And so every year things begin to advance. And by the time I got into a micro sprint, we were blocking the car. We were messing around with shocks. Uh, we were starting to get concerned about torsion bar rates. We were dealing with a car that was in the neighborhood of 100 horsepower at the rear wheels, and we were racing on tracks anywhere from an 1/8 mile to a 1/4 mile. So things started to get kind of exciting, and that part of my racing career went on from 2006 to I think the last time I drove anybody's car was in 2015.
So what would you say, like, obviously you said you've been racing for, I believe you said 20 years now.
Yeah,
What,
over 20. I'm sorry, it's hard to tell you. I mean, it was like November of '98. So to do the math, I don't know. I think we're a little over 24. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm long
no problem.
time.
Uh,
Appreciate it.
but so you've been in the racing world for 24 years now. What would you say is like the best thing, like what kind of makes the racing community different from any other, community?
I've met a lot of people over the years. A lot of people come and go. But there's been a few people that have just always been there, and it might be, it's usually something small, but it seems big in comparison. Everybody gets busy, people get in the sport, people leave, uh, people get into different disciplines of it. But just some of the things that people have helped me with, it could seem really small, but it it's been a huge help. It's I can't thank everybody enough, whether it be from helping me to assemble an engine to hey, here's $100 towards the fuel bill, for racing down at 34 Raceway, for example, or something, just the fuel to get down there. I really appreciate it. And if it wasn't for some friends that would be behind me and be supportive, it would be hard to do this, because it's very physically, mentally, emotionally taxing. And honestly, I really appreciate everything my wife puts up with, because it can be a distracting sport. It takes a lot out of you and time away from family. I try
Yeah.
to manage all of it, plus a business on the side and working full time.
Yeah, I can definitely, coming from racer to racer, I can definitely agree that I think from the outside of racing, when people look at racing, it kind of looks at just something like a hobby. You do something on the side, but once you really get into it, it becomes like a full-time job.
It's
And
very consuming.
yeah. But yeah, that's about all I got. Josh, you got any questions?
Yeah. So who was instrumental, Dan, in helping you get this far in racing?
That's a good question, because between my dad and my grandfather, they helped me when I first got going with the flat track motorcycles. There was a few different bikes that I rode. I ended up getting hurt. Luckily, not bad, but to some people would seem bad. And anyways, things kind of, I ended up winning a track championship at the Arena Racing Series they had in Marshalltown, Iowa in the year 2000. And after that, I kind of transitioned into the go-karts, and my grandpa helped me with that. So I'd say those two people, if it didn't start there, I don't know how I would have continued to pursue it on my own. I probably would have. When I was 8 years old, I really wanted to race a go-kart bad. And but I was just a little kid, and who knows, maybe I would have took that initiative on my own. But that's really where it all started. And I just decided not to not to give it up. I really enjoyed sports too, and in high school and junior high and stuff. And unfortunately, I'm just not I don't even know if I graduated being 140 pounds. So the desires to be competitive and the scoring mentality was always there. But the racing on a participation level, I could always compete, and I could always participate. So that made it a lot of fun, and that's why I've always been involved. It's I guess I'm always up for the challenge, and I tend to have a don't quit attitude on.
So Dan, I see you've competed in the 360 Knoxville Nationals. How many years have you competed in that race?
I know everybody gets really serious about that, and I've ran it. My first laps in a 360 was in 2019, and I ran qualifying night. Uh, Actually, for never step, I never raced any other night before that, and I think we ended up qualifying maybe 41st out of 45 or 46 cars. I know that doesn't sound great, but there were some really talented drivers with a lot more years of experience behind me that we still out qualified. There might have been more than that, but anyways, it wasn't bad for not having any laps in a sprint car at the time. And
Yeah.
anyways, and I did that again in here in 2023. I was on some different shocks and new tires. We had to buy brand new tires for the 360 Nationals, so I hadn't had a lot of experience with that on the new tires, and we're still kind of we're experimenting with some setup stuff, and so things didn't go great during the 2023 360 Nationals. And my first laps in the 360 were in 2019, so I just kind of treat it as a night to learn and just kind of build on. So I wasn't trying to ruin anybody else's 360 Nationals. I was just trying to get better every week, so that's kind of my experiences in 2023 and 2019.
So have you improved a lot each year competing in the 360 Nationals and
You
each
know,
year racing?
Sure. And I race weekly in the 360 division also at Knoxville. And I would say, yes, there's been some progress made, especially this year. I started off racing the 305 class at Knoxville, and that ended up turning into LS crate engine class. And so the open 305 stuff kind of it went to the wayside, and I decided I wanted to move up to the 360 class because of that. And anyways, I would say through this mid-season of 2023, I feel like I honestly did make a lot of progress. I mean, it's so tough because you're racing against people like Aaron Reitzel. I mean, Brian Brown shows up some weeks. Sammy Swindell. I mean, I'm racing against him in a heat race. When I was a kid, I was watching him on TNN. It's unreal. So the level of competition's through the roof. I mean, Sammy can flat out wheel a car. I respect all the disciplines of these drivers have been racing for a long time, and it's just, even when you're making progress, it still sometimes feels like you're struggling. But yeah, a lot of progress was made this year, and by the last race of the season, I felt like we were comfortable running competitively with the competition, and the car felt good. I was finally figuring some things out, and it just takes some time. I still drove between 2021 and 22, but I took a little break too, so that kind of slowed things down also, to where when you're out of the seat for a little bit, it can take some time to knock the rust off. Just running one or two nights in 2021 and 2022, it really doesn't cut it. You need to be racing every single week. So, and I was able to attain that this year, and I feel like we are trending in the right direction. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So, Dan, okay, is there a lot of stress that goes into racing the 360 Knoxville Nationals in an average race weekend?
Yeah, very much so. It's a blessing, and it's also stressful at the same time. I live 11 miles from one of the most prestigious dirt tracks in all of America. At the same time, it's also very stressful because um, you're flat out by the time they drop the green. I mean, there is no lifting. There is at times, of course, a little bit of you're lifting a little bit, but you're not out of the gas. You're on the brake a little bit and trail braking. I mean, it's very full throttle intense, and it's there's no brakes. I mean, it's a big track. Things happen fast, and everybody brings their A game, and there's people coming from Arizona to California to race here, and this is just a weekly show, so it's very stressful when you're the driver and the car owner, that's for sure. But when you get to flip the switch and you turn the gas on and you look down and the oil pressure's up, and you know, those worries seem to fade away, and you just worry about the task at hand, I guess.
Okay, so Dan, also, what does an average race weekend look like for you?
An average race week for me would look like you know, we would start Sunday after the race, just washing the car and get it home. Immediately I would run the valves and clean the nozzles, check the springs. From there, by Wednesday night, I'm cutting open the oil filter. By Thursday night, I'm starting to check bolts, and you know, I'll check bearings and stuff like that. And by the end of Thursday night, we're already prepping to get the car back in the trailer. And by Saturday, we're at the racetrack unloading, putting heat in the motor, and it's all over again, making sure we have tear-offs while we're racing.
Okay. So what does a successful race weekend look like for you?
Successful, like a successful race weekend to me?
Yeah.
Realistically, a successful race weekend for me is getting the car back to the trailer in one piece, and no engine problems. That's a successful race weekend for me. Also, maybe if I can feel like we're moving forward, that's a successful race weekend for me, honestly.
Okay. So what do you learn each time you go out on the racetrack?
I'm sorry, say that again. I had a hard time hearing you.
What do you learn each time you go out on the racetrack?
Well, probably what I would learn most is the way the track changes, the way the car handles. I haven't had a terrible amount of laps in the 360 division, so and right now that experience has just been solely at Knoxville. When I was younger, say 8, 9 years ago, I was able to race 3 nights a week at different racetracks, and different racetracks, small tracks, some bigger ones, and in between, you're able to pick up on different things. You get to Knoxville and you're just going so fast. It can be very uncomfortable when the car it doesn't always handle great. So it can be hampering on your learning curve when you're only racing at one track. Next in 2024, this year, I'm planning on racing a few other tracks to learn more. So at Knoxville, I do learn some things, like it involves gearing, or the changing track conditions. You know, how we're entering the corner, entering harder. You know, just picking up on things weekly, but at the same time, I feel like my learning progression has drastically spiked when we was able to go to some different tracks where it might be a quarter mile one week. Now with the sprint car, it might be a 3/8, and then come back to Knoxville. So,
Okay. So Dan, what makes you happy being at the racetrack?
what makes me happy being at the racetrack? You know, I would honestly just say, you know, passing cars, trying to make the A main, being in the 360 division. It's very tough. We're probably averaging closer to 30 cars on a week. There was only one night where we had enough cars in the field where everybody made the show. So I would honestly say just being able to, you know, make the A main. You know, I know it sounds maybe weird or something like that, but it's just it's just a lot. It's a lot financially. And I'm just I can make one decision wrong and I'll be done for the rest of the year. So these cars aren't very forgiving. It's easy to crash them, and so I try to do my best to race as competitively as I can without making a mistake that could be the rest of the season, or who knows, you know, a crash in one of these cars can get pretty expensive. So I just try to do the best I can. And if we're passing cars and moving forward, you know, that's something to build on every week. And I hope to race
Okay.
at some more tracks next year.
Okay. So Oliver, do you have any questions for him?
Uh, so what would you say is some of your like sponsors that you would like to shout out on this racing show?
Yeah, sure. I have a partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers at out at Lake Red Rock. It's in between Knoxville and Pella, uh, and it is Bobber the water safety dog, and the campaign is you know, to wear your life jacket at Lake Red Rock. There's uh, lots of people that you know, take advantage of the recreational activities that's at the state parks and stuff. And you know, it's just important to wear your life jacket while you're out boating and having a good time. Things can happen, and I really appreciate the partnership. It's not only an advertising sponsorship, but you know, it's also a very good message, and it really could save your life, and that's really neat, you know, to be a part of that. And that's probably the biggest sponsor that I have outside of my own business. I build wings for outlaw dirt carts and micro sprints, and repair some wings also. So that's something I do, and a little bit of fabrication work too, but mainly just wing repairs and building new wings for outlaw dirt carts and stuff like that. It's probably the biggest too.
All right. But I don't know if you have anything else to add,
Yeah,
Josh,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I've got three more questions here.
Oh, absolutely.
What race do you look forward to competing in each year, Dan?
What race do I really look forward to competing in? Probably the next race. You know, this sounds weird. I really enjoy traveling. I just don't get the opportunity to. I look forward to racing at a track I've never been at. I look forward to just the next race. Um, that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, I look forward to the next Saturday night. You know, I actually I bought a second engine, so hopefully we're able to race a little bit more. I still need to kind of go over it and maybe freshen a little bit more, but that's in hopes to where we just don't have one engine. We're just like focused on Knoxville, because you need to have a really decent piece to not only be competitive, but just, you know, just longevity reasons there. So we're hoping to maybe race a little bit more, and who knows, maybe it's 10, 15 nights in 2024. But you know, I'd like to race at 6 different tracks if I could in 2024. So I'm always looking forward to the next race, and I'm always looking for the next opportunity to get to a new racetrack I haven't ever been to before.
So, which racetracks are you looking at traveling to this year?
Honestly, I would really like to get the 360 out to the 34 Raceway in Burlington. I know this is a long shot, but you know, there's some tracks down out of state that I'd like to get to, but also there's some other races like Bloomfield. I haven't been there since gosh, it would have been July of 1999. I had a bad flat track motorcycle wreck there, and anyways, it ended up taking the braces off my teeth. But just some guy's throttle stuck at this flat track race, and thought I could get around him. And speeds were a little bit greater than what I anticipated. I was 15. Anyways, I haven't been there since I was 15 years old, and that was 1999. I'm looking forward to the Ideal Ready Mix Sprint Invader race that they have scheduled there during the fair in late July. So I'm looking forward to going back there, but this time in a sprint car and not on a flat track motorcycle.
So, I would love to see you up at Jackson Motorplex for instance
That
360
too.
action up there.
Yeah, no, that track looks so fun. That's not only like it's not a short track. It's not a huge track. It's it's right there in between. It has, the big track characteristics where you have multiple lines of racing and flat out, but it's also, there's more than just a lot of engine and car stuff. It acts like there's also some driver stuff going on there. Not that it isn't at Knoxville, but it has some small track characteristics now that they've kind of made the track a little smaller, but it seems like a very fun place to go race at. And the closest I've been to Jackson Motorplex is I raced at Worthington and won a few races in the micro sprints up there. But again, that's been back in 2010. So yeah,
There's a couple other tracks.
Cool.
There's a couple other tracks too that would be really cool for you to go to, and that's Huset's in Brandon, South Dakota.
I raced a micro sprint there one time. That place is fast. Although it's sort of small, yeah, it's very flat out, really cool facility. Yeah, that would be awesome. They had a 360 show here the end of last year. That would be cool too. And I appreciate you bringing all this up. That's awesome.
And then they also have a track also coming up in September. Dan, you can put it on your calendar. It's the ASCS, I believe, 360 sprint car race in September at Clay County Speedway
Sure.
in Spencer, Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that sounds like it's almost like an Iowa State Fair in its own. They have their own fair up there, and it's a big deal. And no, that would be awesome as well. I'm looking forward to, yeah, and I appreciate it. That does sound like a blast, and we're open for it. I mean, maybe it sounds weird, but I've raced a lot at Knoxville the past since 2016, and it'd be cool to try to get out to some other places. I've raced at 34 Raceway. We went to Indiana once. It rained out after hot laps, so I don't know if that counts or not, but anyways, it's always exciting to go and race at some new tracks. And if it's a quarter mile or a half mile, it doesn't matter. I think it's a lot of fun.
So Dan, So Dan, how do you celebrate your victories?
Well, I would honestly tell you that, and at times when the winning felt like you almost felt like there was more ways you could lose it than win it, because you get there and then something small happens. That there was a lot of opportunities 10 years ago to win, and little things would happen. But honestly, just savor the moment. When you get out of the car, just enjoy it, because the next time you come to the racetrack, it's not guaranteed. So that's all I'd say. Just when you get out of the car, I've just tried to enjoy it as much as I can, even though at times it felt like, gosh, we was just here, a couple weeks ago, or it almost was like some of the excitement seemed to lift. And the last one I got, somebody broke right ahead of me. So anyways, just no matter how you get it, it doesn't matter. Just really take time to enjoy it. Don't let all the work of it. Sometimes it can get so overwhelming that it can feel not always as fun as it is, and just take some time to enjoy the moment, relish in it, for sure.
So what is the best win you have had in your career, Dan?
Probably one of the coolest wins that I had. They had a turkey race up at Worthington, Minnesota, and it paid $500 to win, and that's probably the coolest win that I've had. I know there's been some times where just in your weekly pay and stuff, there's been some times there's been some payouts that's a little better than that, but it was just some things that transpired, and I was racing, and next thing you know, you're looking up and you pass the guy, and the flagman's waving the flag, and he's waving it for you. You're leading, and it's just like that's pretty cool. I'd say that's one of the biggest wins. And
Okay.
kind of went on a tear there and won some races for a while from there. But yeah, I was say one of the coolest, biggest win. I didn't even see it coming myself. It's just that's hopefully that's not the biggest one yet.
Yeah. So Dan, and everybody out there in racing world, we are doing sponsorship packages. So if you know anybody that wants to sponsor the racing
Sure.
show, we have a gold package, a silver package, and a bronze package. Feel
Okay.
free to inquire. It is a tax write-off under donations and charities and such.
Sure.
So definitely, if you guys would like to inquire about that, that would be awesome.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Dan, we would like to thank you for being on our racing show with us tonight, talking to us about your racing career, getting to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
But yes, it's been our pleasure to sit down and talk to you tonight about your racing career there, Mr. Dan Henning.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure as well. And one thing I didn't touch on either, the first year that I raced at Knoxville in 2016, I ended up just coming 90 points out of winning the Rookie of the Year honors in the 305 class at Knoxville, and also I was able to get the Lyle Boyd Hard Charger Award that year. So that was really a big deal too. So it's not necessarily a win, but that's kind of a big accomplishment to me too, because I started racing a sprint car in 2015, but I was driving for somebody else, and that didn't last very long, and I spent a whole year just garnering sprint car parts. I mean, I went from only having a seat and two wheels, and in a year I had a race ready car, and even built the engine with the help of a machine shop that built it for me. And so it was quite the accomplishment in a year's time to have any accolades of any sort. So that was kind of cool.
Yes. But thank you again, Dan, for being on our racing show with us tonight. Do you have a racing page that the racing fans can follow you on?
Yeah, I have my Facebook account, Dan Henning Racing, and just my regular Facebook account. But those would be the main two, the Dan Henning Racing Facebook account, and then I have my website also, and you can find that at www.danhenningracing.com. Those would be the three main ways you could find me.
So, ladies and gentlemen, go look up Dan Henning Racing on Facebook, or Dan Henning on Facebook, but also go hit up www.danhenningracing.com, and you'll find out a lot about Dan Henning and his racing career. It's been our pleasure to sit down and talk to you again, Dan. Thank you very much for being on the racing show with us tonight. We will call you in just a few minutes to thank you in person. But thank you again, Dan, for being on board with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Josh, and thank you, Oliver, as well. It's been my pleasure, and thank you so much for your time.
Not a problem. We'll let you step out there, Dan, and do a little racing news update, and then we will call you.
Take care. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll have you exit on your screen there, Dan.
Yeah, no problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dan Henning from Columbia, Iowa, the 360 sprint car driver. So, Oliver, do you have any racing news updates for us?
I do not. I know the Volusia UMP modified races have been going on the last couple nights, and a few big names were able to pick up some wins there. A driver I know that races around here by me, Cole Charnetsky, he was able to pick up a first place in qualifying for his group, and then also had a few pretty darn good finishes for, I believe this is his first ever event in UMP modified. So that's pretty cool to see. But yeah, that's really about it.
Well, the only thing racing news wise I have got is that whole deal at the Clash at the Coliseum last week was quite interesting. I know I seen a little bit where Joey Logano and Ty Gibbs were kind of duking it out after the race a little bit, and I was like, this is going to be the telltale sign of what's going to happen this season. This could be quite interesting, to say the least. Yeah. But the Clash of the Coliseum was really quite interesting to see. But so other than that, I really don't have much racing news out there. Just that, and the drag racing world. All the drag racing teams are out there doing some testing, getting ready to kick off their National Hot Rod Association season rather shortly. And IndyCar is doing some testing also. So that's about it.
Alrighty.
But yeah, Oliver, let's thank some sponsors, and then we'll hop off of here, and I'll call you and talk to you for a little bit too. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to thank some sponsors tonight. Dirt Track Race Cars Academy, dirttrackracecars.com. Go hit them up for all your racing diecast needs at dirttrackracecars.com, Dirt Track Race Cars and Company. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank our sponsor, Brody Manning Motorsports. Brody Manning, one heck of a race car driver. I'm also in a band called Guilty as Charged. Go check them out on Facebook. Also, ladies and gentlemen, would like to thank our sponsor, New England Hemophilia Association / Walking with Waylon. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we've got together a sponsorship package. If you guys would like to take part in that, we have a gold, silver, and bronze package. It's tax write-off under donations and charities and such. So reach out to us if you'd be interested in that. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to sponsor a racing show or be on our racing show, feel free to email us at jjnolan151@gmail.com, or you can call or text us at 712-209-7138. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you have a good night, and catch you later on another episode of the
Josh Nolan and Oliver S. Full Throttle Race Show. #1 on YouTube.
Have a good night, everybody.